If you struggle in intimate relationships, you may have an insecure attachment style. But don't worry, the good news is that you may be able to overcome it with openness, hard work, and lots of support. Welcome back to Savvy Psychologist. I'm your host, Dr. Jade Wu. Every week, I'll help you meet life's challenges with evidence-based research, a sympathetic ear, and zero judgment. So here we are today in part 3 of a 3-part series on attachment styles. We already did a first part that describes what the 4 major attachment styles are, and a second part that describes 4 critical ways that your attachment style affects your relationships. If you haven't listened to those episodes yet, I recommend you do those first, just to lay the groundwork for what we're going to talk about today. And I'm really excited today to share with you 3 ways to overcome insecure attachment in relationships. But before we start, let's do a little refresher on attachment styles. They're patterns of how we think, feel, and act in close relationships. They form early in life based on the way we bond or don't bond with our primary caregivers. The 4 major attachment styles are, number 1, secure attachment. This is where you're trusting, independent but close, and open to expressing affection in confident ways with your partners. Dismissive avoidant. This is where someone is aloof or do not feel comfortable with emotional intimacy and tend to pull away from close others if they feel hurt or rejected. The third type is called anxious preoccupied. And this is where someone is always needing reassurance from their partners, seeking closeness and intimacy more intensely and often more quickly than their partner is ready. And last but not least, the fearful avoidant style, sometimes also called disorganized style. This is a combination of avoidant and anxious, often confused and giving mixed signals of pushing away and craving more connection. If you see yourself as securely attached, wonderful. You've got a firm foundation for healthy relationships. But if the other 3 styles are more relatable, know that you're definitely not alone. And there are some things you can do to rise above your insecurities. So, first of all, know that your insecure attachment style is not your fault. Have you ever been in a romantic relationship where your partner was clingy one moment and distant the next, and you struggle to understand those mixed signals? Or maybe you've been involved with someone who constantly checked in, needing frequent reassurance that you still like them, and maybe even didn't trust you to have your own space. Or perhaps you were that person. You were the insecure person in that relationship. Have you wondered why it is that you can't feel confident in those close relationships, even though you try very hard not to smother your partner? Or why you can't help but feel hot and cold alternatingly, afraid to commit but also craving connection? It's not your fault. It's not that you choose to be dramatic or unable to commit or clingy. So much of the way that we think, feel, and behave in relationships is affected by our attachment style, that pattern of relating to close others that was possibly determined before you were even born. Even when a baby is in the womb, his mother's attachment style will determine with 75% accuracy how mother and baby will be attached when the baby is a year old. And during childhood, long before you're mature enough to make decisions about relationships, your caregiver's parenting style will shape your attachment style. So, your attachment style is something you more or less inherit, not something you choose. Nevertheless, you tend to carry this attachment style throughout your close adult relationships, sometimes without even realizing it. People who tend to have a more anxious or avoidant attachment style are not necessarily doomed to let it negatively affect them forever. So, let's get into it. Let's talk about how you can overcome an insecure attachment style. First of all, there are clear benefits to having a secure attachment style. People have longer lasting, more stable, and more satisfying relationships when they're securely attached. Conversely, they experience more drama and less satisfaction when they're insecurely attached. Research shows that your attachment style isn't necessarily set in stone, and doesn't have to prevent you from having a good relationship. So, tip number 1, find a partner who has a secure attachment style. One of the best ways to learn secure attachment is to see it in action and experience how good it can feel. That's why it's great to have a partner who has a secure attachment style and is willing to be emotionally available and supportive of you. How do you know if a potential partner has a secure attachment style? Well, people with secure attachment express their emotions, but not in an overly intense way or very early in the relationship. They offer and willingly receive emotional support. They are independent, but also willing to open up to you and enjoy closeness. And they are comfortable with you having your own independence. On the other hand, red flags for an insecure attachment style include someone who wants to closely monitor you, someone who constantly needs reassurance that you're still interested in them, someone who seems unwilling to get close or become emotionally intimate, someone who's constantly dismissing you or trying to push you away. So, having a partner that has a secure attachment style gives you a role model for how to be confident and emotionally open. Plus, it will give you a safe place to try on secure attachment for yourself. So be patient with yourself and frequently express your appreciation for your partner. You both deserve credit for your hard work. Tip number 2 goes specifically to those who tend to be avoidant, which is to go out of your way to get emotionally intimate with your partner. If you have an insecure attachment style, you're probably aware that you have difficulty with intimacy or commitment. You notice your discomfort with closeness in situations where that discomfort is irrational. Or you kick yourself for losing a partner you loved because you couldn't take the next step. So, how do you overcome that reluctance that automatically sets in? The short answer is to practice. Think of this practice as something similar to exposure therapy, a very effective behavioral therapy approach for people with phobias. If someone has a severe phobia of spiders, for example, exposure therapy would have them purposely looking at, being near, and even eventually playing with spiders. The idea is that the avoidance of spiders only strengthens the fear, but approaching them would show you that spiders aren't so bad. It gives your brain and body a chance to get used to the spiders so you don't react so fearfully. When it comes to emotional intimacy, you can practice by purposely approaching it with your partner. You can use exercises like the famous 36 questions that lead to love, a list of increasingly personal conversation generating questions created by psychologist researcher Arthur Aron and his colleagues. So this list includes items like, given the choice of anyone in the world, whom would you want as a dinner guest? Or do you have a secret hunch about how you will die? Or what is your most treasured memory? And when did you last cry in front of another person or by yourself? This list of questions is really fun and really interesting. You can Google them. They're available all over the internet. The researchers found that when they put perfect strangers into a room and had them engage in conversation using these prompts, participants felt more emotionally close than if they merely engaged in small talk. Some of these participants even fell in love, for real. So after this study was made popular by the New York Times Modern Love essay, many couples decided to try it for themselves and found remarkable results. So why not give it a try for yourself? Even if you don't fall in love, you'll get good practice with trying emotional intimacy on for size. And last but not least, here is tip number 3 for overcoming insecure attachment styles, which is really just to be patient, but work on emotion regulation and interpersonal effectiveness through therapy. Of course, even if you find a securely attached partner and work hard on practicing intimacy, you likely won't change your attachment style overnight. But be patient with yourself and let experience be your teacher. Be reflective when relationships don't go well, and open to taking responsibility for your side of it. And working on yourself will pay off. A large study has found that even those with insecure attachment styles, their ability to regulate their own emotions protected them from having intimacy problems in their romantic relationship. One way to improve emotion regulation and other relationship skills is to get some outside help. Specifically, doing therapy with an objective and trained professional can help you identify patterns in your relationships, to reconsider situations that you may have misinterpreted, and to set goals for how you can act differently. A therapist who specializes in dialectical behavioral therapy can act as a coach who teaches you specific skills for managing your emotions and effectively navigating conflicts. For example, they might teach you how to catch yourself in emotionally hot moments and slow down before you act or speak in a way that pushes people away. They could also teach you how to walk yourself through facts versus assumptions when your thoughts are getting in the way of trusting your partner. They can help you communicate your feelings in a way that is authentic and open, and also fair and kind to your partner. You can find yourself a local therapist who specializes in dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT for short, and relationship issues on Psychology Today. With these skills in your toolbox, it will be easier to be self-aware in your intimate relationships and to learn to trust, express, and support the people that matter the most, including yourself. I hope you have learned from and enjoyed this 3-part attachment series. This is a topic that's really close to my heart, and I hope that some of it has resonated with you. So let me know what you think. Let me know if there are any things that you wanted to try or any insights that you gained from this series, or if there are any other related topics you'd like to learn more about. You can get in touch with me via Facebook or Twitter. I'm at QDTSavvyPsych or at JadeWuPhD. If you like psychology tips delivered straight to your inbox, subscribe to the Savvy Psychologist newsletter and subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Savvy Psychologist is audio engineered by Steve Rickyberg and edited by Karen Hertzberg. As always, Savvy Psychologist is strictly for informational purposes and does not substitute for mental health care from a licensed professional. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next week for a happier, healthier mind.